Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International.
This week, representatives from Spain's Policia Nacional announced that they had recovered a rare ancient sword which had allegedly been stolen from a gravesite and illegally put up for sale online. According to reports, the weapon in question is more than 2,000 years old and has been described as an Iberian falcata, a pre-Roman double-edged curved sword used between the 5th and 1st centuries BC. Authorities say that the falcata was one of more than 200 archaeological items that they seized after it was discovered for sale online. They wouldn't say where exactly the posting was discovered, only describing it was a well-known social media site. After confirming that the sword was genuine and finding evidence that it had been stolen, police were able to track down the seller, identified only as a Spanish citizen living in the province of Jaén. The sword and other artifacts were subsequently confiscated, and the man was arrested on suspicion of misappropriation as well as a historical heritage offense. While an estimated value of the falcata was not given in any of the sources we came across, reports mentioned that this was in particularly good condition. Because falcatas were personal weapons, they tended to be buried with their owners, and their blades were usually deliberately bent and beaten to make them useless to other people. This particular sword's blade was fully intact, making it a rare find.
Authorities in Uganda say that 2 men are facing serious prison time this week after they were caught selling fried grasshoppers aboard an international flight. The incident took place aboard a Uganda Airlines flight this week, traveling from Dubai to the Ugandan city of Entebbe. It began when 27-year-old Paul Mubiru began selling the grasshoppers mid-flight while being filmed by another man, 25-year-old Hajib Kugundu. The fried grasshoppers are said to be a popular snack in Uganda, where they are known locally by the name Nsenene. According to the Uganda Airlines flight crew, the men were in violation of the country's health guidelines in accordance with pandemic safety measures, and were also a nuisance aboard the plane. They were allegedly approached by crew members and asked to take their seats, but continued to sell the grasshoppers, at some points shouting at the top of their voices to get people's attention. Mubiru and Kugundu were ultimately arrested by aviation police at Entebbe International Airport when their plane landed on November 29th. They're now facing several charges, including committing a negligent act likely to spread infection of a disease, common nuisance, and refusal to follow a lawful instruction given by an aircraft crew member. While it's said that the first of these offenses could land the men in jail for up to 7 years, local media report that this is an unlikely penalty. Meanwhile, common nuisance can be punished by up to a year in jail, while the refusal to follow lawful instruction could be punished by a fine equating to roughly $13,000 US, a prison term of up to 3 years, or both.
Authorities in South Australia say that at least 5 people have been arrested this week after the terrifying stabbing and abduction of a 21-year-old woman in broad daylight. According to reports, the 21-year-old woman had arranged to meet her mother at approximately 8 a.m. on November 30th at the Sefton Shopping Plaza in the Adelaide suburb of Sefton Park. However, when she arrived, she was met by 4 additional members of her family: her father, brother, sister, and brother-in-law. The family members attacked the 21-year-old, stabbing her before forcing her into a red Holden Cruise and taking off. Thanks to eyewitness accounts of the attack and abduction, police were able to track the vehicle to a residence in the nearby suburb of Blair Athol. Inside the residence, officers found the 21-year-old woman suffering from serious stab wounds to her abdomen, and she was rushed to the Royal Adelaide Hospital for treatment. While the full details of the crime have yet to be verified, reports allege that the woman was attacked and kidnapped by her family because they didn't approve of her romantic partner. The victim had been with the man for a year, and they had recently moved in together. Though the woman is expected to recover from her harrowing ordeal, she told local media that she fears that if she stays in her relationship, her family will never stop trying to kill her and may also try to go after her partner. At the time of this recording, all 5 of the victim's family members allegedly involved in the incident have been charged. However, only the charges against the male suspects have been released. Each of the 3 men has been charged with attempted murder and unlawful kidnapping.
Authorities in the city of Brasilia say that a local civil police officer has been arrested yet again this week for a series of offenses related to stalking an ex-boyfriend. According to reports, at sunrise on Sunday, November 28th, 40-year-old Rafaela Ferreira traveled to her ex-boyfriend's home in the city's North Wing neighborhood and began to puncture the tires on two of his cars with a knife. When the man noticed what was happening, he quickly ran outside and was able to knock Rafaela to the ground, but not before she managed to stab him twice with the knife and bite him on the chest. When police arrived at the scene and arrested Rafaela, she claimed that she was simply passing through the area that morning, as she often did, and that her ex-boyfriend had been the one that had attacked her. She also claimed that the knife was his, and that she had no idea how the car tires had been punctured. Though Rafaela was released after questioning, it didn't take long for police to pursue charges against her and obtain a warrant for her arrest. Given her track record, it wasn't hard to understand why. At the time that the November 28th incident took place, Rafaela's ex already had a restriction order against her, preventing her from approaching him. In fact, she had already been arrested 3 times prior for other crimes committed against previous ex-boyfriends. In one complaint filed against Rafaela in 2018, an ex-boyfriend claimed that she had called him 98 times in a single day. They had met through a dating app and had only been out a few times. Though ironically, the man ended the relationship because he felt threatened by her behavior, that was when the real harassment started. During another phone conversation, Rafaela reportedly told the man that he didn't know who he was dealing with, and that he was playing with fire. She also made threats directed towards his relatives, saying things such as, "You have an elderly father and mother, they live alone," and "You have a sister and nephew, so stop being an idiot." During the course of an investigation into Rafaela's alleged stalking of another ex-boyfriend, police reportedly recovered a diary from her home in which she seemed to threaten multiple men, writing, "I'm going to pay as many killers as it takes to end their lives." When a warrant was obtained this week for Rafaela's arrest, she initially refused to turn herself in to investigators. She was arrested on December 1st after agreeing to go into custody in the presence of a lawyer, and is now being held for an indefinite period of preventative detention for violating the restrictive measure her ex-boyfriend had against her. At the time of this recording, Rafaela has not yet been fired from the police force and is currently on sick leave.
Authorities in China's Hebei province say that a live streamer has been arrested this week after she allegedly carried out a sick stunt in order to attract more followers. According to reports, the incident took place on November 30th when the unidentified streamer told her viewers that she would broadcast herself taking her own life by jumping into the Hutuo River in the city of Shijiazhuang. The live stream quickly attracted the attention of roughly 1,100 viewers, most of whom desperately messaged her in an attempt to persuade her not to go through with the attempt on her own life. What the concerned viewers didn't know, however, was that the woman never had any intention of delivering on her disturbing claims. Instead, she had planned the livestream from the beginning to be a stunt to attract more followers. When the woman had achieved what she set out to do, she simply ended the hour-long stream and went on her way. Unfortunately for the woman, her viewers weren't the only ones who took her threats seriously. The police were soon contacted, and they were not exactly pleased to find out the whole thing had been done for publicity. The woman was subsequently arrested on suspicion of disrupting public order. At the time of this recording, it appears that she remains in police custody.
Police in Japan's Aomori Prefecture say that they have arrested a 38-year-old man this week after he allegedly killed his ex-wife and staged her death to look like a car accident. According to reports, the body of 33-year-old Megumi Hamaoka was found in the driver's seat of her car in the early morning hours of November 21st in the city of Misawa. Though it first appeared that she had died as a result of crashing into a concrete wall, an autopsy soon revealed a more sinister truth. She had been strangled to death. Apparently, investigators didn't have to look very hard for a suspect. It was well known that Hamaoka and her ex-husband Shuhei Chiba had recently undergone a bitter divorce after years of escalating disputes between them. These fights, which often involved disagreements about how to raise their children, frequently ended with the couple talking to local police. Chiba was arrested this week on suspicion of murder. Investigators say that they believe he strangled his ex-wife and placed her in the driver's seat of her car, positioning her so that she was pushing down on the vehicle's accelerator.
This week, authorities in Scotland announced that they had made 2 arrests in the murder of a 63-year-old grandfather who disappeared 4 years ago while on a charity bike ride. According to reports, Tony Parsons was last seen outside a hotel in the village of Bridge of Orkney in September of 2017. Earlier that day, he had caught a train to Fort William so that he could bike the 104-mile journey back to his home in the town of Tillicoultry to raise money for charity. He never made it back. Though volunteers, a local mountain rescue team, and police aerial support all aided in the search for Tony in the aftermath of his disappearance, all of their efforts came up short. It wasn't until January of this year that his remains were finally recovered, in a remote area of ground close to a farm in the village where he'd last been seen. After more than 4 years, police finally announced this week that 2 people had been arrested in connection with Tony's murder. The suspects have been identified as 29-year-old twin brothers Alexander McKellar and Robert McKellar. Both stand accused of murder, conspiracy to murder, and attempt to defeat the ends of justice. Alexander is also facing an additional charge of causing serious injury by dangerous driving. Despite the announcement, it appears that there is still quite a bit about the case that is not yet known or has not yet been released by police. None of the reports we saw mentioned any further information about what might have led to the murder or how it was carried out. The best we can do at the current time is speculate that a car was likely involved, given the presence of the dangerous driving charge. Tony's family likewise say that they still need answers about his death. At the time of this recording, both of the McKellars remain in police custody.
Authorities in the Indian state of Tripura say that 5 people are dead this week and several others are injured after a man went on a violent rampage through his neighborhood, attacking people with a shovel. According to reports, the incident began on the night of Friday, November 26th, when the suspect, identified as Pradeep Devrai, was home with his family in the town of Kauai. Apparently, it was known that Devrai was suffering from depression and that he had recently stopped talking to people altogether. However, on Friday night, he suddenly became violent. After grabbing a shovel, Devrai first attacked his family, killing his 2 daughters and his older brother. His wife Meena was also seriously injured during the assault. Once he had killed or injured those within his own home, Devrai reportedly ran outside and began going door to door trying to attack his neighbors. Thankfully, most of them were able to barricade themselves inside and call police. Despite being blocked from entering anyone else's house, Devrai continued to try and attack anyone in sight, and soon turned his attention to an auto rickshaw that was passing through the neighborhood. A man named Krishna and his son Karanbir were passengers in the auto rickshaw when Devrai approached, and soon became his next victims. Reports state that Krishna was killed almost instantly, while Karanbir was seriously injured. Even when police arrived on the scene, things were not able to be immediately de-escalated. Devrai fought with police and seriously injured one of the local officers, a man named Satyajit Malik. Sadly, he too would later die as a result of his injuries. Eventually, Devrai was placed under arrest and now remains in police custody. At the time of this recording, authorities say that they are still investigating the incident. That brings us to the end of this edition of Crimes of the Week International. If you're a fan of the new series, don't forget to tell us in the comments section below. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Thank you for watching.